Most people assume that giving up sugar mainly changes the number they see on the scale, but one of the first organs to respond is actually the kidneys. As soon as blood sugar levels begin to fall, insulin starts dropping as well, and your kidneys immediately adjust how they manage fluids and minerals. They begin releasing extra sodium along with water, which can lead to mild dehydration. This is one reason headaches often feel stronger during the first day without sugar. We'll explore the kidney connection more deeply in a moment because it's far more important than most people realize. But before that happens, another major change takes place inside your brain, and it explains why the first few days can feel surprisingly difficult. When sugar suddenly disappears from your diet, the brain's reward system reacts dramatically. For years, it may have become accustomed to receiving regular bursts of stimulation from sweet foods. Without that familiar source, dopamine levels begin to decline. Dopamine is often associated with anticipation and reward, so when it drops, your brain starts searching for the stimulation it has come to expect. The nucleus accumbens, one of the brain's key pleasure centers, becomes noticeably less active. It's almost like the brightness has been turned down inside a room that was once fully illuminated. Research from Harvard suggests that frequent sugar consumption can reduce the sensitivity of dopamine receptors over time. As a result, people often need more sweetness to experience the same level of satisfaction. When sugar is removed, those receptors begin recovering and becoming responsive again. The problem is that this recovery process doesn't feel pleasant at first. This is why many people experience irritability, restlessness, mood swings, or unexpected emotional reactions during the first few days. Even when your body isn't truly hungry and your stomach feels perfectly satisfied, your brain may still be demanding the reward signal it has become used to receiving. Scientists refer to this phenomenon as hedonic hunger. Unlike genuine hunger, which is driven by nutritional needs, hedonic hunger is fueled by habits, emotions, and learned reward patterns. Here's the surprising part. The stronger those cravings feel, the more likely it is that your dopamine system is actively resetting itself. The headache, frustration, and mental discomfort aren't signs that something is wrong. In many cases, they are signs that your brain is adapting after years of constant stimulation. This adjustment can resemble a mild withdrawal process and reveals just how deeply sugar may have influenced your mood and daily behavior. Studies from Stanford have shown that repeated exposure to large dopamine spikes can gradually reduce the responsiveness of these reward pathways. Once sugar is removed, the brain begins repairing those circuits and restoring their natural sensitivity. That repair process often feels messy because your brain is learning how to experience pleasure without relying on artificial surges. The emotional ups and downs that occur during days 1 through 3 are usually less about hunger and more about neurological adaptation. You are not starving. Your brain is simply learning to function without a stimulus it had mistakenly categorized as essential. That's why the discomfort often appears long before you notice improvements in energy, metabolism, or physical health. Yet beneath that temporary chaos, healing has already begun. Every craving that rises and falls is evidence that your nervous system is moving toward a healthier state. Even if you can't feel the benefits yet, important changes are taking place behind the scenes. As dopamine activity gradually stabilizes, cravings begin losing their power. Appetite becomes more predictable, emotional eating becomes easier to control, and food choices no longer feel like a constant battle. The first 3 days without sugar are not a punishment. They are simply the neurological cost of breaking free from a dependency your brain had grown accustomed to. By around day 4, cravings usually start becoming more manageable. At the same time, another important shift begins to take center stage. This time, the kidneys are leading the process. These organs quietly filter your blood every second of the day and play a major role in controlling fluid balance throughout the body. For years, elevated insulin levels may have instructed them to hold on to sodium. When sodium stays trapped, water stays trapped too, often causing fluid retention that many people never consciously notice. Researchers from the NIH have identified insulin as an important factor influencing fluid retention, extending far beyond its role in blood sugar regulation. When insulin finally drops after removing sugar, your kidneys receive a new signal. They begin releasing excess sodium, and water follows along with it. This often produces the first visible changes people notice when they stop eating sugar. Many wake up feeling less puffy. Their face appears leaner. Their eyelids seem lighter. Their jawline may look more defined than it did only days earlier. This isn't simply a cosmetic change. It's a physiological sign that the body is beginning to reduce some of the stress it has been carrying. Many people assume this rapid change means they are burning large amounts of body fat. In reality, something different is happening. The body stores glycogen as a backup energy source, and every gram of glycogen is stored alongside roughly 3 grams of water. As insulin levels decline, glycogen stores begin shrinking, and the water attached to them is released. This can cause a surprisingly fast drop in body weight during the first week. Losing 1 to 3 kilograms during this period is extremely common and often expected. However, there's an important detail that catches many people off guard. As water leaves the body, electrolytes leave as well. This is often the real reason people experience fatigue, dizziness, weakness, or what many call the sugar flu. The challenge isn't necessarily that your body misses sugar. In many cases, it's simply adapting to a rapid shift in fluid and electrolyte balance. The real issue isn't that sugar is gone. The challenge comes from the sudden shift in essential minerals like sodium, potassium, and magnesium. According to physicians at the Mayo Clinic, increasing water intake without restoring these minerals can actually make symptoms worse. Headaches may linger longer, fatigue can intensify, and those early withdrawal-like feelings may become more noticeable. That's why simply drinking large amounts of water isn't always the solution. Your body also needs to replace the minerals your kidneys are actively releasing. Something as simple as adding a small amount of salt to your meals, drinking mineral-rich water, or eating leafy greens can help restore balance and make the transition much smoother. Once your electrolyte levels begin stabilizing, your kidneys settle into a more efficient rhythm. They no longer have to work under the constant influence of elevated insulin, and the benefits become increasingly noticeable. The reduction in puffiness continues. Your face appears more defined, your features become clearer, and you may notice a level of sharpness in your appearance that hasn't been present for years. Even your abdomen often feels lighter. Excess water that was lingering around digestive tissues gradually disappears, reducing that bloated sensation many people assume is normal. In many ways, this is your kidneys finally getting relief after spending years compensating for high sugar intake and chronically elevated insulin levels. But this stage is only the beginning. Once excess water weight has been shed, the body starts preparing for a much deeper transformation. Around the first week, your metabolism begins changing its preferred fuel source. Instead of relying primarily on sugar, it starts learning how to run more effectively on stored fat. That shift marks one of the most important turning points in the entire process. As we move into this next phase, you'll understand why energy often drops before it improves and why mental fog tends to intensify before clarity returns. Before we continue, if you're finding value in this video, leave a comment with the number 1 below. It helps us know this content is helping you, and it allows Physio Decoded to keep creating videos that bring real value to your health journey. By the 7th day without sugar, the dramatic visual changes begin slowing down. However, what's happening internally becomes impossible to ignore. Energy levels may fluctuate unexpectedly. Concentration feels harder. A thick mental fog can settle over your thoughts, making even simple tasks feel more demanding. This isn't a sign that something is going wrong. It's the natural friction that occurs while your body transitions from one fuel system to another. For most of your life, glucose has been your primary energy source. It's quick, accessible, and familiar. But now, with glycogen stores becoming depleted, your body must activate older metabolic pathways that humans have relied on for survival throughout history. Your liver takes on a critical role during this period through a process known as gluconeogenesis. Instead of using dietary sugar, the liver manufactures glucose from other available materials inside the body. This newly created fuel is carefully reserved for tissues that still depend on glucose for proper function, including red blood cells, portions of the brain, and specific cells within the kidneys. Think of your liver as a caretaker, preserving a small flame during a long night. It distributes energy strategically, ensuring essential systems continue operating smoothly while the rest of the body adapts. The reason this stage feels uncomfortable is because your metabolism is exchanging convenience for resilience. Researchers from the NIH describe this process as restoring metabolic flexibility, a capability that modern lifestyles often diminish. Metabolic flexibility is your body's ability to switch efficiently between different fuel sources depending on availability. Interestingly, the days when you feel weakest often arrive right before some of the most powerful metabolic improvements begin. That fatigue isn't failure, it's evidence that your body's energy blueprint is being rewritten. As gluconeogenesis becomes more efficient, fat-burning enzymes become increasingly active. Cells start accessing stored fatty acids more easily, providing muscles with a steadier and longer-lasting source of energy. At the same time, mitochondria, the tiny energy factories inside your cells, begin adapting to this new environment. They become more efficient at generating energy, creating a smoother and more stable fuel supply. Unlike sugar-driven metabolism, which often produces rapid highs followed by energy crashes, this new system delivers a more consistent flow of energy throughout the day. Your brain, however, doesn't immediately embrace the change. Initially, it struggles as it begins shifting from heavy glucose dependence toward greater ketone utilization. Ketones provide a remarkably clean source of fuel, but brain cells need time to adjust to using them efficiently. The brain fog many people experience is simply part of that learning process. It's not damage, it's adaptation. Once the transition is complete, many individuals describe a level of mental clarity and focus that feels more stable than anything they experienced while regularly consuming large amounts of sugar. For now, though, the discomfort serves as a reminder that an ancient survival mechanism is reawakening. Your body is remembering how to function efficiently without depending on a constant stream of excess sugar. Then, around day 10, another transformation begins to emerge, one that affects inflammation, collagen, recovery, and even the way your body ages. By this stage, mental clarity starts returning, and subtle physical improvements become easier to notice. Your skin may appear brighter, your joints often feel more comfortable, facial puffiness continues to decline, and inflammation throughout the body begins easing. These changes aren't random, they're the direct result of removing one of the major contributors to long-term cellular stress. For years, excess glucose has likely been attaching itself to proteins through a process called glycation. This reaction creates compounds known as advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. These compounds gradually damage tissues by stiffening collagen, weakening elastin, and accelerating visible signs of aging. Researchers frequently compare AGEs to a form of internal rust that slowly wears down the body's structures over time. When sugar intake drops significantly, the formation of these compounds slows as well. This allows collagen fibers to regain some of their natural flexibility and resilience. Skin may appear healthier, connective tissues function more smoothly, and movement often feels easier. Many people notice that stiffness decreases, joints feel less swollen, everyday movement becomes more comfortable. At the same time, the immune system begins calming down. Frequent blood sugar spikes encourage the production of inflammatory signaling molecules called cytokines. These molecules contribute to pain, tissue irritation, and the progression of many chronic health issues. As sugar consumption remains low, cytokine activity begins declining. The result is a quieter internal environment where healing and repair can occur more effectively. This reduction in inflammation is one reason redness fades, breakouts improve, and that constantly tired appearance gradually starts disappearing. But one of the most overlooked benefits of this stage goes even deeper. Your body doesn't simply reduce inflammation, it redirects valuable energy toward maintenance and repair. Without repeated glucose surges, mitochondria experience less oxidative stress and can perform their jobs more efficiently. Improved cellular energy production creates benefits that are both visible and noticeable. Energy feels steadier, recovery improves, skin develops a healthier appearance. Meanwhile, insulin levels continue moving downward, reducing inflammatory stress throughout the cardiovascular system. Even the gut benefits. Fewer inflammatory byproducts are produced and circulated throughout the body, creating a healthier internal environment. As this internal noise fades, the nervous system becomes more balanced. Mood swings often decrease. Emotional reactions become less intense. You feel calmer, steadier, and more in control. When all these improvements accumulate together, the effect can be remarkable. It begins to feel as though your body is moving in the opposite direction of aging, restoring functions, improving resilience, and rebuilding vitality from the inside out. But everything you've experienced so far is only setting the stage for one of the most surprising changes of all. As inflammation continues decreasing, another transformation begins around the 2-week mark. Your appetite starts recalibrating, your taste perception changes, and your relationship with food begins to feel completely different. This is the point where avoiding sugar no longer feels like a daily battle. Instead, it starts feeling normal. By day 13, an unexpected shift occurs, not in your skin, your weight, or your joints, but in your mouth. Your taste buds naturally renew themselves approximately every 10 days. By now, many of the taste receptors that were repeatedly exposed to excessive sweetness have been replaced. For years, intense sweetness may have overwhelmed your senses, making naturally sweet foods seem bland by comparison. Fruits had to compete with desserts. Whole foods had to compete with processed snacks. Now that constant sugar exposure has been removed, your taste receptors begin recovering their natural sensitivity. That's why an apple suddenly tastes richer and sweeter than you remember. Flavors become more vibrant. Foods that once seemed ordinary start revealing layers of taste that had been hidden beneath sugar overload. But this change extends far beyond your tongue. Deep inside the body, hormones responsible for hunger and fullness are beginning to communicate more effectively. As insulin levels remain lower, your brain becomes more responsive to leptin, the hormone responsible for signaling satiety.